Hi guys, hope you're well. So as the title suggests, this is a live stream Q&A, completely impromptu. I'm just doing it for a number of reasons. Just to test out live stream. I've done a few of them before, quite a few, sort of DJ live streams and a couple of tutorials. But I want to start doing more of this, just chatting to you guys, catching up. And hi Sky Saber, thanks for joining. Yeah, give you a chance to see my studio. You can ask me anything you like about some of the things that I've been doing on Instagram. And one of the main reasons is that I've not serviced this channel for so long, and it just seems like a complete waste. So something that I'm telling my children quite regularly these days is when they're learning new stuff is just don't give up. And I said it to my son the other day, and I just thought, well, I've given up on my YouTube channel a bit, not completely, but as you're probably aware, I just haven't done any tutorials for such a long time. So in between looking after my kids, trying to sort of hi Buzz Music, thanks for joining. Yeah, trying to get my hustle on, get some money coming in, because I'm completely freelance, completely sort of self-sufficient, but that comes with a lot of freedom, but then a lot of sort of what am I doing next? And running your own thing, you've got to be very motivated, and quite a lot of the time I get in the studio at night time and I'm just like, I'm done. What am I going to make for the channel? I've done loads of tutorials, kind of sort of burnt myself out with doing so many sort of special technique stuff, and it's not that I've run out of ideas. I think I just sort of get a bit self-conscious and think, well, what am I going to do next that is really exciting and groundbreaking? And I think I did some of those kind of videos 2 or 3 years ago, and with no plan, and now I'm left with like, okay, so what's I could show you so many things. I've had so many machines in the time that I've not actually been making videos on this channel for the last year, maybe even 2 years. So yeah, you can ask me about any of the gear that I've had. Things have come and gone. Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I'm Mopotbo. Some of you guys have got the craziest YouTube names, and I always struggle to pronounce some of them. But yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I've obviously got a big legacy with my old videos, but yeah, true. Add new stuff every day, but it's what when I do get the time to come in here and do stuff, I'm always like, I've got a really good idea, and then it's self-sabotage. It's psychological self-sabotage what to do. But you're right, I should do stuff every day or that I get a chance. But if you follow me on Instagram, I pretty much upload 1 or 2 videos to that almost every day. And it's just me jamming. If I get a nice groove going, I'll put that on Instagram, and Instagram's great. Just to show you guys what I'm doing, my new musical ideas. So I've got stuff going on, but it's this channel. The reason for doing this live stream is really to sort of revitalize the channel and get some more content. And if this is the way to go, live streams, rather than if you can imagine setting up a tutorial, getting the camera right so you can see everything on the screen, the audio's got to be perfect. I don't want to mess up in the things that I say. It's just quite a lot of pressure, and I've just sort of been through that, and it got a bit boring, and I've done my NPC Masterclass courses, and they sell pretty well. That's kind of cool in the background having that. It's very cool. I'm very grateful for it. But in terms of doing this on a regular basis, it's like I need new ideas. So that's why I'm doing this. And if this goes well, I'll just carry on doing this, and it gives you a chance to actually ask me stuff here and now. So yeah, Sky Saber, just got an MPC 1 Plus, haven't used it yet, but I'm also into my DMB and would love to know how you can conjure up grimy bass sounds like the wobbles in Serum. If so, can you do a demo? Not tonight, but obviously Serum's a wavetable synth, and there's certain things you can do in the MPC by modulating the start point, which kind of gets a little bit close. You've probably seen my the best technique on the MPC. It's the one where I did all the kind of glitchy sample start manipulation. In terms of those kind of bass sounds, there's nothing really in an MPC that can do that. Hi Drive-By, thanks for joining. RTM, thanks for joining. When are you next playing out? I'm supposed to be playing out in Southeast London in November. I think they're called Whistle Horns Crew. It's one of the guys that I met through the record label that I'm on, Different Music. He's asked me a couple of times to play down in I forget where it is now, Honor Oak or somewhere like that, near Lewisham somewhere. So yeah, hopefully in November. Your set at Rupture last year. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I used the Force for that, and that room, as you may remember, was a complete sweatbox. But the Force just absolutely performed like perfectly. There was no glitches. I literally thought, you know, I put my finger on the screen and it was completely soaking wet. And I just thought this is the last thing, you know what MPCs and the Force are like, you know, they are prone to sort of having these little freeze ups, but it was absolutely perfect. And I was pretty battered by 3 a.m. I'd had a few drinks and a few other extracurricular activities. And, you know, I was pretty lean, let's say. But yeah, it went well. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. All Gone Wrongful. Velocity sample start is brilliant. Love it. Yeah, nice one, man. It's my favourite video too. Yeah, I put a lot of work into that, and you know, I wish my video quality was as good as this. This is much better now. I've got a much better camera, but I can't do it again. That's another thing. Is like redoing videos. People have said just do your videos over and again. And I'm not very good at doing the same thing that I've already done before, repackaged. But yeah, guys, yeah, I'm glad you guys are joining. Thank you, appreciate it. So yeah, it's just the Q&A, you know, just hang out, chat. You know, all I do in the evenings now is make beats. As you can see, I've got the Machine Plus back in the studio. I've got this. Is that a Tascam to your right? Oh yeah, it's the it is a Tascam, isn't it? I just call it the Model 24. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's the Model 24. All Gone Wrongful, hands down. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's the Model 24. It's really good. Yeah, I've had no issues with it other than the fact that I dropped I can't remember what, I dropped something on it and snapped off one of the monitor buttons, but I don't really use it. So, but yeah, it's a really good mixer. I've also got, well, I can take you through this rack here. So little mini studio tour. I might go a little bit quiet because I've got to move away from it, obviously. But I'll take you through what I've got here. And if you've got any questions, I'll come back when I get back over here. But this rack is from Amazon. It's really good. It's like a 3-tier rack. It came with 6 stands, which was a little bit limiting because the company doesn't provide additional sort of arms to put your gear on. So initially I could only put 3 on, but a very good friend of mine, Simon, very kindly lent me these extra arms that he had on a rack. And that's how I've managed to get everything on there. So I'll just go through all this. I've got a Behringer, Ultra Patch Pro, which is a patch bay. And there's a loom, an 8-channel loom, or an 8 jack loom coming out the back. And 6 of those are going into this little analog desk. And this is what I used down at Planet Wax, the record shop that's in New Cross, that is the record label that I'm on. And I took the Force and that, and you can really overdrive the bass and brakes on it. It's just a classic, you know, like analog mixer that you can saturate stuff with. So that's only 6 channels, so I miss a couple of channels, but I've got an Evo 16 here. So basically, this Ultra Patch Pro is 8 channels out the back, 6 into that, and that means then I can split out all the 8 channels on the Model 20 on the 2400. I can use the multi output on the MPC and the Force. So that's just a USB cable going into the Evo, and then the Evo can, you know, physically have 8 cables coming out, going into that Ultra Patch, and then that goes back out into that desk, and then I can just patch whatever I want. And then I've got my modular up the top, MPC 1 Plus, Force is in the back corner there, just off screen a little bit. And yeah, and over here, well, I've got this. This is, if you ever want a DJ mixer, this is the one to get. SL21, hi, thanks for joining. Reckless Kamakazi. Yeah, it's it's the Model 24, the Tascam. SL21. Just one sec, man. Yeah, so this is my Zone DB4. This was just an absolute steal. I got it online, and these are pretty rare, and they go for a lot of money. And I got this at a really good price, but it's amazing. It's got 4 loopers. This is what I use live now with either my MPC or the Force. I think the next time I play out is going to be with the Machine Plus. So that's back in the studio. I sold my old one to one of my friends, Andrew. I think we did a swap actually for the SP404 Mark II, but that got boring. Sold that. Great little machine, but there's only so far I could go with it. So yeah, I'm using these two at the moment. This is going into the Zone DB4, and it's just brilliant. You can loop things, load up a new project, mix that in. I might do a little demo of that later. So yeah, so SL21 High Digger. I've got an MPCX and get on really well with it. I've been looking at Machine Plus as another. Does the Machine Plus sound more modern? So yeah, let's talk about the Machine Plus, because this is the latest addition to the studio, even though I've had it previously, as you probably know. If I can give you guys some advice, if you've had a machine that you really like, it's not a machiner, but any machine, an old piece of gear, and you miss it, it's really worth getting it again, because in the time that I had this when I first had it, I've learned so much. Even though I teach you guys and I teach other people, and I consider myself, you know, sort of somewhere towards the sort of upper end of a pile of people trying to learn stuff, I've learned a lot. I'm always learning myself, right? So there's stuff you guys know more than me about audio. You know, I'm not the greatest audio engineer in the world by far, but I know a lot. But there's just so much more to learn. And in the time that I had this, I've learned just, you know, you pick up techniques, and, you know, it's such a good machine. It is such a good little box. And I've learned how to use it so I don't get the crashes and the sort of glitches that I had before. It's an excellent machine. It sounds brilliant. The effects, there's like, compared to the effects on the MPC, there's a lot less, but they sound a lot better. For example, the EQ on Machine Plus just does exactly what you want it to do. If you want to add some high end, you just turn up the gain and just tweak the frequency, and it's just there. It just gives it to you straight away. It's got some great glitchy effects on it, the reverbs, the delays, and the fact that you can load Realm into it, which is on here, it's considered a VST effect. If any of you guys have got Realm, RAUM, it's got a freeze. It's a freeze reverb, so you can freeze it and make drones and then resample it. It's an excellent Machine Plus. I absolutely love it. It's really good. I really love the way it sequences. It's very high quality. The build quality is brilliant. I did a Machine Plus video course on my Masterclass courses website, so I need to kind of probably add some more tutorials to that, but it is such a fantastic product. It really is good. Hi Andrew. Hi Cider. Sorry if I'm getting these names wrong, guys. Is Machine the way to go, or is Akai still the king of samplers? Well, I don't think Akai is the king of samplers. I think the Ensoniq ASRX is the king of samplers, but it depends what you mean. Like, in terms of sound quality, my ASRX, I'll get it. It's just over here. This is my baby, and she's 23 years old. She's got a Zulu SCSI inside. She's got maximum 32 megabyte RAM. It just sounds amazing. The sequence is absolutely shit, but it's usable. But the effects on it are excellent. It sounds amazing. In terms of usability, yeah, the MPC is amazing. I've got no complaints with it, other than that Akai will release updates like they did today with the flex beat thing that you can now have. I'd rather them just sort out some of the things, like, you know, like edit all events in the grid editor. The Force can do it, so why can't MPC? And, you know, like proper crossfade looping like they had back in the day with the S series samplers, you know. So I think I watched a video recently on someone that did a comparison between this. I think it was Accurate Beats. I think he did. I think it was his comparison that I watched, and maybe someone else. And it was like, what is better? I mean, it depends. The workflows are completely different, but it sounds amazing. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to catch up on these questions. How do I use the DJ mixer? Did I? Yes. 1 second, guys. Yeah, so Machine sounds amazing. The effects amazing. The workflow is great once you get it. It's really good, like the way the scenes work and the different patterns, the way you can attach them to different scenes, and it's brilliant. Brilliant for live, brilliant for studio. How do you use the DJ mixer from Cider? So yeah, basically this mixer is amazing. Like, it's got a 4-channel matrix. So each of the actual channels that you've got here, you've got these channel selectors, the input selectors at the top. So I just choose the input for just like Machine, for example, as channel 1. It's going into my inputs 1 and 2. So I've got that selected for all 4 channels. So it means that I can play a beat on here, capture it in the looper, load up a new project, and then have that same, you know, have the Machine come out on channel 2. And then I can have 4 different projects all looped up and playing on the mixer at the same time, you know. And that's why I got it, really, is just so you can, you know, the effects are pretty, the delay, the reverb's great on it, the filters are great on it. But the main thing was having the ability to loop. So I can loop one project, start a new project, bring that in, mix it. And I just do it all on the fly. I don't even use headphones, because I just beat, you know, it's got really good beat detection. So yeah, it's superb. Anyone who's got one, I think, who's SL2, yeah, you got a DB4, so SL21, sorry. Yeah, he can tell you it's fantastic. It's the best DJ mixer I've ever used. It's amazing. So yeah, it is literally just, you know, I'm just using one machine with it, whether it's Machine itself or MPC or whatever I'm using. It will go into one physical input, or input 1 and 2, but then I can have that going into all 4 channels. So if I bring these faders down, just press play, look, you can see it's coming into all of them, that same signal. So I can capture it via the looper on any of these channels, stop the project, and the thing is, I've got this at 85 BPM, so I do jungle at 170. If you put it at 85, the internal beep clock for the beat detection, it allows you to have double the length of loops. So, you know, 4 bars becomes 8 bars, etc. Or 2 bars becomes 4 bars, should I say. Let me just catch up on these questions, guys. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Cider, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Silent P. RTM, I love the SP404 Mark II, but the sequencer, it's a nightmare. There's so much menu diving back and forth going between the pattern editor. It's, you know, the fact that you have to reset the quantization or something. There was something that really used to bug me, but it's a good little box for the money. You know, it's certainly the best out of those the SP series. Or the 555 is good. That was good fun, but obviously really limited and stuff. I'm going to try sequence it with a Dirty Wave. Yeah, someone was going to, one of my followers, a guy called Andrew, was going to send me an M8 because he wanted me to do some tutorials on it. But there was an issue with the postage and that. So I was quite excited to see what it's like, you know, because you probably know that I use Renoise, and I also had the tracker. I've forgotten who makes it now. the hardware tracker. So yeah, Dirty Wave. Yeah, I'd like to see some more demos of that. Hi Andrew. Reckless Kamakazi, does the machine really crashes often? Yeah, so when I had it, that's one of the main reasons that I sold it, because I just couldn't rely on it. But now I've since, like I said, it's really good to go back on old devices that you really enjoyed but may have had a few little bugs, because they do get ironed out. And it seems that has been the case, but also I was given the wrong advice on how to manage my library. In the manual, there was some sort of mistake on how they were saying that you add your own samples to the library, and I think I had mine in the wrong place. So every time I'd load up, not every time, but quite often I'd load up a project, and it was missing files. The only crash that I've had in the last, because I've only had this a week now. I've only had this actual one for about a week now, and the only problem I had with it, it couldn't save to the SD card, and so all I did was save. I actually saved my sounds and my groups, and it allowed me to save those, but it just wouldn't allow me to save the project for some reason. So I just saved all the content and then just started the project again. But yeah, in general, it's been stable, really good. This Machine Plus, the thing that you've got to realize is that it invites you to load up all these really processor heavy plugins, but you'll just max out the CPU really quickly. So the idea is to resample, and this is where this machine shines. It's an amazing resampler, and that's why I love the ASRX as well, because it's such a good resampler for a 23, 24-year-old machine. It resamples just so easily, and it sounds amazing. So resampling on this is the key. You get a nice patch up, whether you're running Massive on it or one of the CPU hungry plugins. Just resample, and I've said this before. Resampling forces you to make decisions and commit to things, so you can move on. So you don't just have this plethora of options. Oh, I can tweak that. I can tweak that. No, just settle on something. Look at your CPU. It's going to max out. Resample it and move on. And I think that's the best way to use it. Drew Sim, hi, Drew Sim. Are you? Sorry, Biggles. Just go back. How do you use DJ Mixer? Answer that. RTM. Yeah. Andrew Russell. Does machine crash yet? Reckless Kamakazi answered that. Biggles. Is machine more intuitive than MPC? That's a really good question. I wouldn't say it's more intuitive, but it's definitely got a more interesting approach. Like, think of MPC as, even if you've never used one, a 4-track tape recorder. That's the way I look at MPC. It's so easy to kind of just lay down something on a track, go up to the next track, but you can just stack up the tracks. But that's where most people, in my experience, have problems, including myself, before I got my shit together with it. And getting my shit together was naming stuff, doing the housekeeping. As you've probably seen in many of my videos, I bang on about renaming stuff. Otherwise you get lost, because it's really easy to just go, right, this is my next track, this is my next instrument, my next key group program, my next drum program, and you can just, fill up a project really quickly. But then if you haven't been on top of the housekeeping, you'll just get lost. And it's really important, you go to the channel mixer and you can see everything named. You can see what program you're on, what channel you're on, what you're muting. It's just, that's the best way to use it. But Machiner, again, it's good to name things because you can get lost in all the groups, all the sounds, all the banks. It's just the way that it has the extra kind of things with the scenes. So you attach patterns to scenes, and then, patterns will contain... a scene will contain several patterns from your drums, several patterns from your bass, or one pattern from your bass, or it's really clever. And then you can just literally press one button and it will append those to your song. So if you compare it to the sequence, next sequence facility in the MPC, it's more intuitive in that regard. Definitely, because it allows you to try out. It's got an ideas mode, so you can try out different ideas, different combinations. So with MPC, you're fixed in those kind of, the tracks and the sequences. But Machiner goes one step further with the kind of scenes. So in that sense, yes, it is. It's more intuitive in that way, or it's more flexible. And once you get your head around it, it took me ages to get my head around it. I was like, how, what is that? What are scenes? What are, sections and scenes? And once you get your head around it, it's good. Am I still using the DJS 1000? No, the DJS 1000 I had for about 5 months from Pioneer DJ, and then they asked for it back. So, I thought they might have gifted it to me, but they just literally didn't. I mean, the person that I was dealing with there was really friendly, and she thought what I was doing was great, but it didn't go any further than that. I don't know if she sent the videos to anyone else in Pioneer, but you know, it's like all these manufacturers. Aside from, you know, I get on really well with Brad from Isla Instruments, and we chat a lot. He's supportive of what I do. I chat to Andy Mack from time to time from Akai, but companies like Native Instruments, Roland, I've never had any interaction with anyone that works from them. So, you know, it's hard. You know, it's difficult. All the gear that you see, I've bought myself. The MPC One Plus is the one piece of gear that Akai have given me for the content I've produced for them, and obviously it helps them. You know, and yeah, a couple of other companies have given me stuff. Some sort of smaller companies to kind of demo. But yeah, the DJS came and went. Good machine, but again, they, as far as I'm aware, they didn't do anything with it. They didn't update the firmware. I can't remember the last time they updated the firmware, and it just seems to be one of those projects they let. And I did try and tell them that you're marketing this just to DJs. Like even the name, it just, you know, I think if it wasn't from some of my videos and other people's videos using it as a beat machine like an MPC, it would have just gone under the radar in the beat making community and just be used as a sort of a fancy DJ sampler. But as you know, it can do so much more. It seems like such a waste. Scuzzy, haven't heard that term in a long time. Right? Yeah. All Star, hey Tubi, what's your rack? I honestly can't remember the company, but if you just go on Amazon and just search for Synth Rack or Studio Synth Rack or something like that, and it is just a 3-tier keyboard or 3-tier synth rack. I think it was about 160 UK pounds or something, but just be aware that this one only came with 3 pairs of arms to put your gear on, so it's kind of limiting if you've got more than 3 machines. But as I said, one of my good friends Simon lent me some arms to put on it. But yeah, it's decent, it's sturdy, and it really helps to organise the studio. Did you say, oh, what's in your rack? Sorry. Yeah, I was talking about that a little while back, but yeah, so I'll just go through quickly. So I've got a patch bay, Behringer Ultra Patch Pro, so that allows me to split out. I've got an Evo 16 interface, so I can do the multi-channel thing on the MPC One and the Force and the S2400, or anything else that's got a multi-channel audio. So yeah, the Evo 16 is under there. Underneath that, I've got a Rolls headphone splitter. So that allows me, this is quite interesting, if you've got multiple samplers specifically, and you want to capture the audio from any one of those into any other sampler, I've just split in that out of, it's got like, it's got 12 outputs on it. So it's got 6 mini jack outputs. Has it got 6 or 5? No, it's got 5. It's got so 10 outputs in total. So it's got 1/4 inch up here, and it's got mini jack underneath. And I just take like wire cables out of it, and so I go stereo into all my samplers. And if I play something on machine, I can capture that into MPC and vice versa. So it just allows me to split out my inputs for sampling. So that's really good. Excuse me. Underneath that, this is the S3200 XL. I specifically bought it just so I can do old school jungle time stretching on it, and it's got variable sample rate sampling. You can sample things at 11 kilohertz and do all that nice lo-fi stuff on it. It's an amazing rack sampler, classic Akai S-series sampler. Underneath that is the S2400. Next to that is a Studio Master 621. That's my little analog 6-channel desk. MPC One, modular synth, and then the Akai Force is in the corner. And then over here I've got a SL1210 turntable, Arturia keyboard, which is again my friend Simon who's lent that to me. This guy Simon, he's a really good friend. He's very kind and generous to me. And he's lent me lots of his gear because he travels around a lot and he doesn't always get a chance to use these things. And he's actually lent me a Waldorf Aridium, and it's just been sat there for ages. It's an amazing synth. If you've ever seen any demos on it, and I just haven't. I know how to use it, and I should have done some tutorials for you guys, but yeah, check the Aridium out if you can. It's decent. But yeah, he lent me this Arturia keyboard, so that's there. That just allows me to do stuff on the computer, and yeah, machine and the zone, and that's the studio. And I've got my records are behind the rack over there. Polyend, yeah, I've forgotten the name of the tracker. Who makes the tracker? So what's in your rack? DB4 amazing. Never, no, I won't sell it. All gone wrong for. Are you able to keep your gas in check? So I do keep it in check, and the way that I sorry, I'll repeat that just in case anyone's missed the question from All Gone Wrongful. Are you able to keep your gas in check, or do you spend more than is advisable on gear? Well, this is my business, so I earn money from selling my courses, from doing my YouTube, my Zoom tutorials, and any freelance work I get. So it's kind of difficult for me to sell stuff, particularly if I've made a masterclass course on it, because then if someone comes to me and say, oh, I bought your course, can you do it? Because when I do my masterclass courses, I offer anyone who's bought those courses the ability to request custom videos at no extra charge. So it's good for me because it allows the course to expand and it gives me ideas for new videos, but it also gives you exactly what you want. So if I decide that the Force, I'm not using it much, and I go and sell it, then my Akai Force Masterclass is I'm kind of screwed, because if I ever need to make content for it or troubleshoot something that someone's asked me, so I have to hold on to the key bits of gear. But if you follow me on Instagram, you probably would have seen I had the TR8S recently. I just fancied it because I wanted to do some techno. But again, like a lot of Roland products, there's sort of, you get to a point with, I personally get to a point with Roland it's always Roland, and I just like the MC909, and I think it's so good, but then you stop me from doing this, and I can't do this on it, and there's this limitation here, and seemingly pointless limitations as well. So like, I got the TR8S because it could sample, and I knew that it couldn't do much other than sample and play back. It can't actually record samples, it can play back samples. But you get to a point and you just think, well, I've got things that can just like run rings around this machine, and it sounds great, the effects are great. So I buy and sell stuff. So I only bought that because I sold something else. I can't remember what it was, but I just have it on this kind of carousel, basically. You know, if something gets boring and has run its course in the studio, I will only ever buy something generally unless I really need something or really want something, and it's generally need instead of want. There's a lot of things that I've really had to sort of bite my tongue about and just be like, no, I can't do it. So yeah, I try, I try to keep my finances in check and don't go silly, because I've got children, I've got bills to pay, like any sort of responsible adult. I can't just be going chucking money at all kinds of things. So all this, this is years of sort of accumulating stuff, buying and selling, which is part of the business. I try and I do all my own repairs mostly. It's only a few really difficult things that I so I save money doing that. But I'll rejuvenate old bits of gear and then try and make a couple of extra £100 on top of it, from eBay or wherever else I sell the gear, and so people get a really nice piece of vintage gear that previously might not have worked or looked good, and I make a little bit of money on top of that, and then that money goes towards maybe something new. So I'm always buying and selling machines when it comes the time to do that. I don't just go and spend on top of. That was a long answer to quite a simple question, so but a good question. That's how I keep my gas in check. Loops vinyl to never run out of record again. Yeah, exactly. SL21's talking about the Zone DB4. So yeah, you can loop whatever you put into it and extend it. It's great. All gone wrong for yet? Polyend. Sorry, yeah, I had the Polyend tracker. Rufus Jackson. Hi, Rufus. Have you ever mixed and mastered a hip hop boom bap beat in the X standalone? Yeah, tons. But when you say master, it's what I call a rough master, because I'm not a mastering engineer. I just know enough to get the most out of that machine in standalone. But of course, it can be done. But never try and do a master or even a rough master if your mix has got to be good. Otherwise, you're mastering a bad mix, which is that's all it's down to. My secret to a great mix, and it, you know, obviously your sounds have got to be pretty good in the first place, but it's give yourself headroom, because you're looking at a small screen with a small throw. You're not looking at a large, you know, like on the fader on here, I've got like a 6-inch throw on this. When you're using, you know, a 2-inch little graphic on the screen, you kind of get used. It's very easy to relax into this. Oh, I can only push that so far. You need to bring everything down, crank up how you're listening to it, and then you've got a lot more headroom. I call it headroom mixing. So get your mix right that way, and then, you know, that's the best way to get a good mix, and then think about mastering. But yeah, I have. Boom bap's easy to master because it's slow, and there's usually not a lot of elements to have to worry about. So it's a lot easier to master a hip hop tune on a standalone machine than it is a jungle tune. So if you ever want to challenge yourself, try and mix a jungle tune, because I can do it now. You know, it's relatively easy, but you know, getting the bass to sit right with all those breaks going at the speed that, you know, jungle is, and you know, it's a whole different ball game from doing hip hop. But yeah, you can totally mix and master on these machines, but your mix has got to be right in the first place. Cider, do you know how to make a key group on the MPC hardware from a software synth in a DAW? So you mean using the auto sampler, I assume? Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, like, I can't. I really don't like the MPC software. I never use it, and if I do use it, I'll just run it in the background. But I'm always looking at my MPC Touch or the MPC One, depending on what I'm using it with. But I very rarely use it. But if I do use it, it's all being driven by the controller, by the hardware itself. So all you need to do is just, you know, load up your VST and then go to the sampler and choose the keyboard symbol and just auto sample it. I'm sure I've got a video on my channel how to use the auto sampler, if that's what you mean. But that's all it is. It's the auto sampler function, and it resamples your VST synths. You might have to elaborate on the question if that doesn't answer it. The Vapors, hi. Do you ever record in double time, and do you have any tips on using swing globally or just on individual tracks with drums? So do you ever record in double time? Yeah, I kind of go both ways with that. Sometimes I might make a jungle tune at 85 beats per minute just because I don't know why. I have done. There's no real reason to. Maybe it's just because I've forgotten to adjust the BPM. But if you go the other way and you're making an 85 BPM hip hop tune at 170, yeah, you just get more resolution in your sequencer. So it can lead to some quite interesting things. You know, obviously if you're doing trap, it could be handy, because then you're getting, you know, essentially your 64 beat note repeats become 128. So yeah, it can help doing double time, if that's what you mean, unless you mean sample in double time to get that kind of lo-fi thing. Do I have any tips on using swing globally? Well, I usually just apply it to 16th note drum hits, which would usually be hi-hats and kick drums. So anything that falls on the offbeats. And I don't really, you know, my tip, if I was to give one, is just do it on the elements that require it. It's as simple as that. Like I say, for me, it's only ever hi-hats or shakers or kick drums. I never swing anything else on it. do you swing the whole project at the same settings or drums? Yeah, I mean So that's the answer really, is just kick drums and hi-hats. But for you personally, you can just apply it to anything you like. That's why I like the MPC, because you can just do something and just undo it. It's very easy to just try something out. You're not committing to anything, necessarily. What modules do you have in your modular? That's a good question. I'm gonna have to come over here because so I've got quite a few Erica synths things just because they're very good quality, but they're mostly utilities. So the Erica synth stuff I've got mixers. I've got a multi, so you can put a sound source or a CV source into it, and it splits it out into 8 different channels. I've got a Behringer filter, which is like, it's like a multi-band, it's got low pass, high pass, band pass. I've got a Pamela's new workout sequencer. I've got a Zayoc or Chaos Synths Zayoc Belgrade filter, which is amazing on drums. I've got a Dope for sample and hold unit. I've got the Strymon Magneto reverb and delay, or delay and reverb looper. I've got the IntelliGel shapeshifter, which I've tried to sell a few times and then just not sold it because it's just, you can't be selling something like that. It's too good. It's a wavetable synth. I've got I'll tell you what, if anyone's got a modular and they want a good effects unit, I've got the MFX by ALM Busy Circuits. It's MFX. It's brilliant. The delay on it is great. You can do some really weird stuff with the delay time, and it just sounds grungy. Really good lo-fi delay unit. I've also got the IntelliGel Planar, which is the joystick, and you can record CV movements. It's just amazing. So anything that you modulate with the joystick, you can just record those movements, and then you can trigger that via a looper, and it will play those back in time, and you can just, it's brilliant. But like many of you will know, it's one of those things that, unless you're on it all the time, it's I'm getting a warning on OBS that my bit rate, so if there's any glitches, there's some kind of internet nonsense going on. So I do apologise if anything drops out, guys. Let me know if there's any problem with the stream. What else have I got? I've got a looper, a granular looper. It's the ADAC 112. So it's a really quite a pricey bit of kit and very elaborate. You get this second unit that has all the outputs and inputs in it, and it's brilliant, and it sounds amazing. It's got all the lo-fi, aliasing stuff going on with it, and it's got granular, grain stuff. It's just one loop, so it's kind of limited, but it just sounds amazing. Again, I can't bring myself to get rid of it. So that's the big thing in the middle. You can't really see it. I could probably zoom in for you. It's probably not. Yeah, it's a bit dark. It's not really worth it, but the rest are just kind of utilities and that. So yeah, it's just for experimentation and making sample packs. It's good for doing, sample pack creation and stuff like that. I hope that answers your question, drive-by. Agree with the 4-track recorder analogy. It actually takes time finding a way, the MPC. Yeah, so MPC, so Henri de Carvalho. I hope I pronounced your name right, Henri. It takes time finding your own workflow for the MPC, because that's another really great thing about MPC is there's so many different ways that you can use it, and it doesn't fix you into this kind of ecosystem or whatever you want to call it that you're stuck with. It does, in certain regards, but generally you can use it however you want it. There's so many different ways, and that's the thing that is more difficult. That's what takes time. It's not difficult. It just takes years of kind of finding your way with it and then going, right, this is the workflow. but yeah. Cresshead. Hi, MPC has 32 song lists. There's a drop down to try out different arrangements. Yeah. Yeah, of course. So I think maybe you're referring to what I was saying about the, what's better, machine or what's more intuitive. Yeah, I just think machine's more intuitive from, like an idea's, it's like more immediate in that way. Whereas MPC, if you're making sequences and songs, I find personally, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just my experience, but I find that once I'm going down a certain route, I like to stick to it, and I don't like to give up that idea. I like to push through and get that done rather than go, oh, that's all right, just put it in the background and I'll come back to it and I'll try a different way. I don't really work like that personally, and that kind of is the same deal when it comes to, like, you may have seen my video on the one sequence workflow. The reason I shared that video is because I'd found that's my workflow. I prefer to just have one sequence generally. So I've got a linear timeline like a DAW, but without the bullshit of having a mouse to push around, and you're working on, that's where I come from, is using very limited gear in the 90s that only had a tiny little screen and bars. So I was looking at bar 0 and where that was going to end up. Usually for jungle, it's 256 bars. Rather than know that in the background I've got all these other sequences, let alone those I've got all these other tracks to manage, I just find that it's a lot more like, I used this analogy last night with one of my best friends, use these tools like a focused, like a shotgun. There's like a focused thing that just does one thing. I quite like that analogy because, we can get lost. The whole reason for standalone for me is to move away from the computer, impose these limitations, and then get the best out of them. So, that I prefer just the one sequence thing, so when it comes to songs, although, like I say, with Machina, it gives you that, but it still focuses you down that one route. That's what I'm trying to say. With MPC, I find, for me personally, if I'm trying to develop a song, I just stay in that same idea. I don't really like to. It might be different for you. You might be okay with sort of going, right, leave that song arrangement, try something different. I'm rambling. Or sorry if I'm rambling. Did the Isla, so Henri de Cavallo, did the Isla S2400 bring a mixer experience into the workflow, a bit like the TR8S? So I assume you mean does it bring a mixer experience? Because I'm going to assume you mean because of the faders, maybe. I don't really use the faders in that way. That I don't usually. Sorry, guys, but my OBS or YouTube is telling me that it's inserting adverts. So if adverts pop up, I do apologise, but I have to monetize what I'm doing somehow. So if you get adverts, I do apologise. So yeah, I don't know if that's what you mean, Henri. But it's lovely having faders. Like that is one of the things I did love about the TR8S. It's nice to have faders. They really do make a difference. Like when you're adjusting volumes, I do prefer faders over knobs because it's just what you're used to on a physical mixer, I suppose, unless you've got a rotary mixer. But yeah, there's something nice about having faders. But I don't really use the Isla in that way, if that's what you mean. Please leave another comment or another message if that didn't answer your question. Same for anyone else, guys. Andrew Russell, new MPC update worth exploring. Well, I don't know if you saw my Instagram video, Andrew, on the new delay, the multi. I can't remember what it's called now, but there's a new delay plugin that's available in MPC. That's my favourite thing about it. There wasn't anything that I was waiting or hoping for, other than things that I've asked the Kai to add, but the flex beat thing, I'm not really bothered about it. I mean, I can do all the beat repeat stuff on this. The machine's got that, and the force is good, with the macros and stuff, and the sort of XY effects. other than that, yeah, it's worth updating just to keep it up to date. It's not going to crash your machine. I don't think it's not going to, it's more of a benefit than a detrimental thing to do. So I always recommend people update their NPCs to the latest version. And I'm grateful for what they do. Do you know what I mean? If I'm not bothered about the flex beat thing, it doesn't mean that I'm hating on it at all. I as you guys probably know, I'm generally positive on my channel, and it's not because I'm a fanboy or I just don't see the point in, I try and keep the negativity to a minimum because it doesn't really serve anyone. There's loads of things that I could criticize, but it would always be from a constructive point of view and what could be done better. But yeah, update, man. It's definitely worth it if there's extra stuff. Excuse me. RTM, yeah, it's such a shame that Pioneer abandoned the SP16. Yeah, I tried the SP16. I just didn't get it. It just, it just seems, and kind of the same with the DJS 1000. Like there was sort of like these master effects that you could only apply to the master output, and there were certain things that it was like, why can't I do this on all the tracks? And the SP16, I just didn't get it. I just didn't like using it at all. It just seemed like a very overpriced, when it first came out for sure, machine that was, wasn't competing with anything else, to be honest. I think most people were just excited about the analog filter on it, from what I remember. I didn't get that one. I did have it for about 3 weeks. I think I might have got it off of eBay and then just sold it very quickly because I just didn't get on with it. But yeah, oh, you like it? Yeah, I just didn't get on with it. I think I preferred the DJS 1000. I could be more creative on that. It just felt more like, probably because it was the pads. I think I preferred the pads, using the pads, to be honest. Is that Alistar? Alistar, sorry. I got the S2400 about a week ago. Quite sonic game changer. Yeah, so I'll talk about the S2400. So I think what Brad and his team have done is brilliant. And I love the fact that he's from Basildon, which is, only about 25 miles away from where I am in Essex. And I just think it's just great. It's a great success story. I really like what he's done with the company, and he's a very personable guy. I get on really well with him. He's a funny guy, and I've been on at him, like a lot of other people, is to get this DSP unit fixed or sorted or manufactured. And he's obviously had a lot more sort of pressing things before he's been able to get on with that. But that's what I'm really waiting for, because as much as I love it, I just get to a point with it where I like, well, unless I'm putting this or splitting this all out into separate channels on my analog desk, so I've got EQ, the sound, I love the sound. I love the 12-bit and the 26K, the aliasing. But sometimes, like I was saying this to a friend of mine today, unless you sample something into it that's really good quality in the first place, or you import a sample that's really good quality, it can't really do much to bad quality samples. They're just gonna, you've just got these filters which have got a good range on them. They sound great for what they are, and they sound old school, but I just need an EQ. So that's what I'm waiting for with the DSP unit, is all the filter. I don't know what the filter card's going to have in terms of adding more to the sonics of it, but that's the only thing where I sort of think I need to make something. I'd love to use the S2400, and then I go, I want to make something on something else because it doesn't have EQ. I wish it had EQ. That's all I need on it. Aside from that, a delay would be amazing, obviously, but EQ and delay is what I really want on the S2400. But yeah, it does sound lovely. I mean, you crank up the gain. You can really oversaturate and crank up the gain on the channels. It's good fun. It's a brilliant machine. Aridium is a dream of mine. I love that thing. Yeah, it is an amazing synth. The only thing that I've struggled with on it is the fact that it's got a sequencer, but you've only got I think it's just one or two tracks or something. It's I've tried to make a track on it, so like synthesize some drums on it, and then have a secondary track on the sequencer. Like I tried experimenting with it, and I just thought I'd love to use it as a groove box because it's got pads, it can do drums, it's got the sampling facilities, but that's the only reason I'm not using it, because I'm not being disciplined and saying, right, it's a synth, just use it as a synth. And it's quite big. Like I'm focusing on my live set at the moment. The next time that I'm asked to play out, I want that locked down. So that's the only reason. But I'll try and do some content on the Aridium. And also, there's so much that I haven't learned about it. I'm out of my depth with it, to be honest. I'll be completely honest with you. I know how to use it. And I consider myself somewhat experienced with it now. But there's, that's how much, let's say that's everything you have to learn. I've learned about that, maybe less. But yeah, it's a decent bit of kit. Andrew, generous, your business model, you're a treasure. TD. Oh, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I assume you're referring to the Masterclass course business model. Yeah, I just thought, well, if someone's investing a couple of $100 or $300 in one of my courses, unless I'm constantly updating that on my own volition, like off my own back, sort of generating those ideas, it's, that's going to be sort of quite a challenge. And I just thought, well, what would work for both parties? Give people the opportunity to request custom videos within reason. Like I do put this in my disclaimer, is like, if you're asking me to produce 10 high quality videos on all these really specific in-depth thing, that's another course that I could sell. But if it's like 2 or 3, videos that I can sort of easily answer, and it's customized to that person, but is also a good idea that will appeal to other people, then obviously it benefits everyone, benefits me selling the course, and it benefits you directly because you get your question answered, your specific question as well, instead of it just being a course that I've done, in a general way. So it makes sense to me. Seems like common sense to have it. How is that Gary Block or Jerry Block? Sorry again if I've got your name wrong. How is your S2400? Yeah, like I say, I love it. But the only reason that I don't use it as much as I'd like to is just because it doesn't have EQ. Sometimes I get some really nice lo-fi samples in there, and then there's a point with lo-fi where it's like, how lo-fi do I want this to be? I'd like to actually bring out some of the high frequencies of that lo-fi sample, and then, you or maybe the guys at Isla Instruments or Brad or anyone might be saying, just plug it into just split it out into a mixer then, which I do. But like yourself or anyone else on this stream, you know what it's like. You want one machine. I think that's why you guys come to me, is because I show you how to use one machine and not have all these extra things connected. All right, I've got these two connected, but generally my tutorials are focused on one machine. And if it doesn't do everything in the box, or all the sort of real key things, then I tend to sort of like, I don't really like having to manage lots of different things. And that's why when I play out live, I just take 1 or 2 pieces of gear. So the S2400, like I say, as much as I love it, it is brilliant. Yeah, that's, I like to EQ things. So, but it's great. Yeah, if you want a decent vintage sounding modern day facility sampler, it's fantastic. All gone wrong for nice one. Thanks for the answer. Great answer, mate. You're welcome. Also, Alistar, man, I wish I could have got Ski's new SP 1200 special. I don't know what that is. I assume you mean Ski Beats. And I don't know whether you're referring to, is it a vintage one he's got, or is it the Rossum remake? Do you do any mixing classes or have a price? Yeah, so I have mixed loads of people have come to me and said, can you mix this? And I charge the same as I do for my hourly Zoom tutorials. So I charge 60 UK pounds an hour for my tutorials, and some people are fine with that. Some people have said, oh, it's a little bit steep, can you do it for £40? And I just think, well, no, I'm not going to drop the price. Not because I'm being tight or money grabbing. I'm offering that's the value. You know, I could charge a lot more. So that is my sort of best middle ground. If you're in the States, that's roughly $80 an hour. So what I encourage people to do is make sure they have all their questions ready, and if they do, and everything, and their Zoom's working, the camera and the sound's working, I get people to test that before they start using their time. Then when everything goes smoothly, in that hour, I can cover so much ground, and that's why it's worth it. So going back to your question, if I mix for other people, that's what I charge. And I would never mix something in 20 minutes. Oh yeah, that sounds great. And then bullshit someone and say, oh, I spent 5 hours on this. That is not what I'm about. I will, like, hand on heart, tell you how long it's taken and charge accordingly. And it's quite difficult to, like, if someone says to me, can you mix this track? That's the most difficult thing for me. Is not the mixing. The work's easy. It's the determining how long it's going to take, because any problems could come up. So I need as much information from you as possible, like how many tracks, like what's, you know, is everything named in the project? Are you giving me stems? Are you giving me an NPC project? But yeah, of course, if you want me to mix, I can totally, you know, turn around decent mixes, and then you can send them off to be mastered, or I can even do a rough master just as a test, and you can use that if you want, or you can just take the mix and get someone else to master it. But yeah, I totally do that. It's £60 an hour. If you go on my website, tubedigga.com/lessons, all my links should be in the description of this video or any of my other videos. But when you book multiple lessons, so if you book two lessons, so £120, which I think is something like $150 or $140 US, it comes down. I think I knocked £10 off that or £20 off that. And if you book 3 lessons, I knocked £30 off of that. You just check it out on the website and you'll see, like 5 hours should be £300. 5 times 60 30 is 300. But I do it for £250. So you save £50. So if I spend 4 hours on your mix, that's what it costs. But yeah, email me, tubedigga@gmail.com, if you want me to mix your projects or work on your projects. I don't just do tutorials. You can come to me for anything. I just charge by the hour for whatever you want me to do. But there's certain things I'm not going to do, obviously. You know, I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to go, if I start going down that route, I'll just be coming out of all this sort of like wrong, gross humour. But yeah, audio wise, yeah, I'm a family man. I don't do any weird shit. So yeah, email me for professional stuff. Is what I'm saying. Do you do the mixing? Yeah, so that's it. And I've also got mixing tutorials on here, and part of my NPC Masterclass, there's mixing things on there, like gain staging things. And Buzz Music, hi. What's the best way to get a nice, loud, round 808 bass that cuts through when making jungle? Brilliant question. So I have this a lot. You know, I'm a big fan of Photech and Lemon D and all the guys from back in the day. Photech in particular always used 808s. You know, back in those days, people weren't really doing a lot of this kind of, you know, other than Hoover bass. There wasn't a lot of this kind of low mid-range, droney sort of Hoover bass and serum type stuff in new jungle and new drum and bass that you get these days. And most of it was that classic 808 sub bass. And if you listen to a lot of Photech's tunes, you can kind of, this is me guessing, that he's just saturating it just enough to bring out those extra harmonics. And that's it. It's literally adding a bit of saturation, overdriving those 808s. So you still get that nice deep boom, like back in the hip hop days when they would have the classic 808 on the sort of like that second kick drum to give it, like, you know, Don't Scandalise Mine by Sugar Bear. It's got the think break, and then it's got that boom, and Backed by Dope Demand, it's got the same thing. In jungle, that's what I always loved about jungle. I came from hip hop, went into jungle, and a lot of it was that the draw of that deep, heavy, you know, hitting underneath the kick drum. So that's the other thing. So you overdrive the 808 just slightly, otherwise it becomes growly and you're turning it into a square wave. and so the sign becomes then a classic Dillinger overdriven, which is great. But this is how the guys in the trap genre get those 808s. They overdrive it, but they do it loads. But for jungle, you just a little bit of subtle, and take a bit, scoop out everything underneath 50 hertz basically, and then just up the volume of it, and then it's a case of, many experienced studio engineers that I've met over the years have always said you want to think of it as it's bouncing off the top of the kick. So the kick is like, imagine the kick's underneath it, not in terms of frequency, but it's almost like that sub bass is either being bumped down. I think of it. You have to excuse me for a minute. I'm not being weird, right? But this is how I visualize music, particularly things like aim and breaks or driving. Sort of think of all Tekka, the way they get all their sound designs sound all interlocking and mechanical. I sometimes think of a lot of drum and bass and jungle as this sort of machine. If you can imagine like an actual drum machine. So think of like a robot or some kind of mechanical engine that's got all these pistons, and that's the beats pushing out. I always have this vision in my head of a piston sort of banging down. That's the kick, and it's pumping that bass. So if you get those to sit right, in simple terms, if you get those to sit right, once you've done the saturation, that's where it starts booming out. And scoop out a lot of the low end of the breaks as well. Like jungle breaks, if you listen to a lot of the old full cycle, like DJ Diet, Suv, Ronnie Size, a lot of their tracks, the breaks are quite low. The low frequencies in those tracks are kind of scooped out, and they kind of skip on top, and it's the bass that is bubbling underneath, and that's kind of filling that space where the kick drums have been, the low frequencies have been scooped out. That's how I do it anyway, is to get those to come through, so they're not just muddy underneath. Hopefully that answers the question, man. It's all about the relative volumes of everything. It's mixing such a, like when people say, "Oh, these are the rules, 10 rules for mixing videos on YouTube," that it's ridiculous. It's like the Wild West, because everyone has got a different elements in their tracks. Everyone's got a different genre they're working with. It's just so random that I think the days of having some like industry standard rules, like here, and then it's like a big wide playing field now. Like people like myself, I create my own techniques and what works for me. And it might be, in the eyes of a professional studio engineer, completely wrong to do, but that's how I do it. It's the perception and the relative volumes of everything that you've got going on in that mix. So if it's just another good thing is what I've been doing lately is being minimal with jungle, not being too overly musical. Like some of the best tunes, like if you know your jungle tunes, you probably know the tune Reincarnated by DJ Diet, and it's got a kind of spooky, I think it's maybe from one of the Dirty Harry films or something, like Lalo Schifrin sample at the start, a little voice sample, and then it's just boom, 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 and it's just, that's the tune, and it's a wicked break, little break edits. A lot of DJ Crust stuff was like that, and they're my favourite tunes, the minimal ones. So get minimal and break it down to just the sub and the breaks, and you'll find that, then start adding all your musical stuff. Because quite a lot of the time, you'll make a jungle tune, think, oh yes, put some synths in there, put some sound effects, and then you're just crowding it all. I would, as the name suggests, or the original, like maybe not modern day drum and bass, but original drum and bass, when it kind of, was splitting off from jungle and was just like jazz breaks, like again, like the full cycle guys, and it was nice break beats with just very simple sub bass lines. It was dance floor music, and then you add some minimal effects, and that's all you need. And when I play out, that's how I'm playing out now. I'm not making full tunes. I'm making hooks, just like the hip hop guys back in the day, where they'd find the hook in the disco records and with where breakdancing came from. I'm doing the same with jungle now. I'm getting just like dub plates. They're not fully finished tracks. They're ideas that sound great, and I'm just being very disciplined and going, right, leave it. That's it. Just leave it now. And then maybe bring a little sound effect over the top of it to make it, it doesn't get boring. It's like James Brown, my favourite artist of all time, James Brown, simply because, and obviously the musicians that he employed, they found their groove and they locked it in. And that's the genius for me, is finding a groove that doesn't have to change. If you know, there's one of my favorite records of all time is Chicago by Roy Ayers, and it's this relentless hook, dum 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 dum, and it goes. It's a 7-minute record. I've got the vinyl somewhere. It's like 7.5 minute, beautiful piece of vinyl. And it doesn't change. It's got, it's got lyrics over the top, and it's got Rhodes keyboards, but the groove is relentless, and it just doesn't change. And it's like, this is it. I'm going to give it to you. If you don't like it, go away. And I think James Brown had that aesthetic as well. It's just like, find your groove. This all came from a question about sub bass. Can you believe it? There you go. Value for money, guys. Let's go back. You guys have. There's a lot of questions here. And how long have I been on? Let's have a look. 1 hour and 10. That's all right. Okay, let's go back. So, mixing, best way to get nice loud round bass. I hope that answers your question, Buzz. Do flat caps auto spawn bangers? Yeah, that's why I'm wearing it, man. I'm wearing it because I don't have much hair left, and I shaved my head, and for some reason it just makes me feel a bit more, I don't know. I just like hats. I don't like, sometimes I hate the hat, and I just think you look like a twat, take it off and just don't have a hat. But yeah, it auto spawns many things. What hat works best for beat making? Yeah, I mean, this works well for me. I've had baseball caps, but it just depends what feels comfortable on your head. Rufus, can you achieve that 90s Havoc DJ Premier sound with the MPCX, meaning that old MPC sound? And do you have a tutorial on getting that gritty sound on the MPCX? Well, Rufus, if you just this is why my masterclass. I'm not being a salesman here. I'm literally just making the analogy. The difference between my MPC masterclass courses is they're somewhat organized and you can find what you want. But with my YouTube channel, you're going to have to search. I can't remember, but I definitely have got at least 5, 6, maybe 7 different videos on how to get lo-fi sounds on the MPC. So one of the classic ones, check out, it's a comedy video. You might have seen a lot of my videos. I'm doing some stupid voice or ridiculous impression of someone, but one popped up in my feed the other day and I thought I'll just watch it. And it was me putting on this really ridiculous voice. But the tutorial was actually good, and it was about using the air enhancer. I think I'm doing this like, this is the air enhancer, and I'm just doing this like ridiculous cheesy voice. But the actual content of the video is good, because if you this is the old technique of speeding up a sample, then you resample it at the fast speed. When you bring it back down to the original speed, it degrades the sample quality. And if you use the air enhancer insert effect and use the harmonic gain control, it brings out all the high frequencies again, and it just sounds nice and crusty. And you don't have to worry about using like the Air Flavor or the Air Flavor Pro, but they're great. You can use those, and that will give you that sound. So in terms of engineering or sound design, those are the techniques that I would use to get that old school sound. Other than that, you might as well just go out and buy like an Akai S20. They're brilliant. You can get them for probably $200 or $300 on eBay, and they're excellent. Or the Zoom sample track. I mean, that's when I've really found that I can't emulate that sound and I want something authentic. I'll just get the real thing, and that's why I've got the S3200 there. And I think that's it in terms of lo-fi, aside from the S2400. But if you just want to do it in the MPC, I've got a few videos on the channel which can give you that sound totally. Any tips for performing live with the MPC? Well, it's no different from this. This is the key to it. This mixer. So get yourself a looper or a mixer that can loop, because that way you can load up, you can loop, you can capture the project that you're currently playing to the crowd, and without them knowing, you just loop it, and then you're loading up your next project. And then you've just got to have the skill to, I don't use headphones. I just literally just press the restart button or the play button or the play start button on the MPC, and get it in sync, and it sounds more organic. It sounds like I'm mixing records. So yeah, my Akai Force, I've got an Akai Force Masterclass for live performance, which shows you the similar techniques. You can just got to be really sort of like economical with the samples if you want everything in one set. But with MPC, it's slightly different. You can just fly in and fly out long pieces of audio, so don't use up the RAM. Just check my channel, is like how to DJ on the MPC. Just check in my videos on here. And if you have got the Force, that will give you, and you want to invest in the Masterclass, again, that shows you exactly how to do live performance on that, and that does translate to MPC. I just build up very simple sequences and then make them more elaborate with effects, so you don't use up all your RAM. That's the only problem with using these machines for live performance, is people get this idea that they can't, they've not got loads of RAM to like stream all these. The Force can do it, but you just need to fly things in and out and purge. That's all. You bring in like a beat. Let's say you bring in a 6-minute beat and it takes up 60 megabytes of RAM or whatever it takes up, and your RAM starts maxing out. Just purge it out of memory once you played it and mix in your next track. But in terms of having everything sequenced in the same project, I don't do that anymore. I just make simple projects that work, and then I use a looper with this. That's the best advice I can give you, is get a looping mixer, or just a decent looper like the RC505 or the Mark II. And then you can just, switch between projects. And if you've got an extra MIDI controller, if you've got the MPC One, you've only got 4 Q links, or the MPC Live. MPC X is fine because you've got 16 Q links, but make sure you set up your Q link so you've got all your live effects manipulation stuff at your fingertips. Or get a MIDI controller if you've only got the four Q links. Andrew Russell, the one sequence workflow has been a game changer for you. Yeah, it's just streamlined. I think people get intimidated by that linear timeline. They're like, oh, I want these short, small sequences. I still do that. I do make projects where I've got smaller sequences that I always end up in the song mode, stitching those together and putting them back into another sequence, because then I've got my song as a long self-contained sequence. I'm back to that place, and then you can just edit the whole thing again. But yeah, you have to be organized with your tracks and programs. Everything's got to be, drums on track 1, bass on track 2, so on and so forth for every sequence. The way I do it, this is my key workflow for the MPC, is one sequence initially, get all your tracks locked down, right? I don't mean all your sequences, I don't mean all the notes and all the arrangement, but settle on where your drums are going to be. They're going to be on track 1, settle on your bass, track 2, track 3. Don't go to another sequence and then start getting excited and going, oh, like, I'm going to start this time with my Rhodes keyboard and put that on track 1. It's a bad idea. Just say in that first sequence in your project, get 8 tracks or whatever it is, even if it's 8, 12, it doesn't matter, and then make a 16 bar loop, something that's long enough to not be boring, but not too long to be hard to manage. And then once you've got your main idea locked in, duplicate or copy that sequence over, and then you've got all your before you do that, name everything. Name all your tracks, name your sequence, name your tracks, name your programs, assign your programs to the tracks in that one sequence. That's your template. Copy it over to 8 additional sequences, and then you can start chipping away and reverse engineering those, and then stitch them together in song mode if you want to do it that way. Buzz Music, do I record track mutes to create a song? Very rarely, and I'll tell you why, because I just find having things muted, it always trips me up. I just think, well, where, sometimes I'll forget and then something will drop out. I just prefer to destructively edit notes. It's good for ideas, but I very rarely record my track mutes. I'm not a big fan. If you're just doing it for like a simple boom back tune that is 64 bars long, and you just want things to drop out at, you know, specific times, it's great. And the other reason I don't do it is because I'm not one of these beat makers that has a kick on one track, a snare on the next, hi-hat on the next. I never do that. I always have my drums 99% of the time all in the same program. I might have an additional track with extra percussion, but generally my drum kits are all in the same program, unless I've got two different breaks. But if it's just one drum for the sort of entire track, they're all on. I need to see everything in the grid editor. I can't be going between tracks for drums. You just get lost. But if you do work like that, that's where track mutes are handy, because you can just mute out the kick drum quite easily. I know you can do it with pad mutes, but I think the old school way was having all your drum, you know, you got to think a drum kit is like a multiple instrument within itself. And then I just prefer to contain it all in one track and one program. But no, I don't generally buzz. I generally destructively edit anything that I want to drop out at a particular point in the song. Multi-tap delay, yeah, thanks Donut Master. Yeah, it's you could do some really weird glitchy things. Check out my Instagram if you've not seen it. If anyone's not seen it, one of my latest videos is just me mucking about with the new multi-tap delay in the latest NPC update. It's decent. You can get some weird stuff. Flex is good, but still a toy compared to a real scratcher. Yeah, it's your classic DJ glitchy beat repeat thing. You know, just one step further than the XY effect and the touch strip. I never use that touch strip thing. But yeah, it's fine. I wasn't hating on it earlier. Just it's, you know, I beta tested it several months ago, and I just didn't have the time to really investigate. And it just thought I did when I first used it, I didn't really. I wasn't really feeling it too much, but yeah, it seems better now. They've definitely got it sorted, hence why they released it now. But yeah, I saw Marlo Diggs did a video on it today, and I had a little look at that, and yeah, it sounded good on the music in his video. I like the way it was doing these little glitchy things on the musical samples that he had in his demo. So Brad got them new cards coming. Yeah, I can't wait for the DSP effect. Shameen Rucker, no question, just here to tell you you're. Oh, thanks, Shameen. You're dope for saying so. Thank you. When I was younger, someone would have put an A in front of that dope and said you are a dope. But I've matured and slightly less dopey than when I was back in those days. But thanks, man. Big up. What do you think about the analog heat? I've never used it, but a good friend of mine, David, said it was really good. I think he used it quite a lot. I can't remember if he still got it. Again, NPC Head or Marlo Diggs, I think he's really into it. He seems to have it in his signal chain. So yeah, it's apparently decent. I use, if I want that thing, that's why I go through this little analog desk. This cost me about £200. This little Studio Master. I've had it fully restored. All the carbon inside. I don't know if some of you guys might not know this, but inside some of the potentiometers, you have these things called carbon tracks, and they get loads of grease, and attach the grease that's in them to keep them nice and smooth. Attracts loads of dirt, and that's when they start getting crackly and or stiff and seize up. So I had all that done, but that's that's what I use to give it that sort of heat. It's just an old analog mixer rather than give Electron several £100 for. But I'm not saying don't. It's supposed to be really good. I'm not hating on Electron either. It's I just can't justify that. I'd rather just get the real thing, which kind of gives it that warmth. Hi Dustin. Micro Kid J Beats. I've only just tuned in. I missed most of the live. Just rewind, man. It'll be catch it up on the replay. Yeah, no worries. I think you can rewind it now, but if you want to stay on there live, then don't. But yeah, catch it tomorrow whenever you got time, man. That's one of the best simple bets with the MPC. Very good indeed. Inky the Cat, evening. Hi Inky. Thank you very much for interacting with my channel over the years. I've seen you pop up loads. So yeah, big up yourself. And everyone, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't worry, I'm not going. Just saying thanks. Henri, I've been working since months with an electron machine drum. Oh man, don't. So I don't think I mentioned this loads on this channel, but that is one of my biggest gear regrets, is selling the machine drum UW Mark II. So yeah, I have tried it, and it's the one machine that I regret selling the most, because it's got a 12-bit sampler in it. It's very limited, but the sound quality is amazing, and they're extremely hard to come by these days. So I would recommend to you, Omri, don't get rid of it, because if you keep it all in order and you keep it serviced and, excuse me, it's going to be worth a hell of a lot of money, I think, in the future, unless they do some kind of remake of it. But yeah, one of my biggest regrets. I absolutely love that machine. It was the best Electron device I had, I think. I used the Octatrack. I've had most of them, apart from I had the analog Rhythma very briefly. I didn't like it. I had the mono machine, but I got to a point with that where it wasn't really doing it for me. The Octatrack was brilliant for a few years, but I never liked the sound quality and the tappy buttons on it. Saying that, the machine drum's no different really, but I love the brushed steel finish of it, the red screen, and just it sounds amazing. And just the fact that you can just do all the automation and the P locks. Yeah, don't get rid of it. If I were you, I would just keep that and really get into it, because it's brilliant. It's a brilliant piece of, these days, vintage gear, I would say. One machine is the goal, yeah. Mate, that's blinding. I don't know who you're saying that to. All gone wrongful. M8, that's blinding. I don't know if you're talking about the M8 or you're just saying, mate, that's blinding. Omri, where can we drop some pennies? Oh, I think there's a super chat. The super chat thing. That's very kind of you. I think if you look at the bottom of the chat, there's like a little dollar bill sign thing, and you can pledge. It should be there. I hope so. If not, I might have like loads of you trying to go, oh, I'm going to want to give Tubedigga £50. But I don't know. I thought it was enabled. But I can do it. But obviously I don't want to do it to myself, because that would be pointless. I'd owe myself money, but then I'd still get the money. That's a weird thing. That's a weird thing to think about. But yeah, there should be like a little dollar sign. It says show your support for Tubedigga. People have done it before. But yeah, that's very kind of you, man. If you wanted to contribute, that's really kind. Where are we going? There's a loads here. You can, if you can't do it on here, there's a donate button on my website, tubedigga.com. There's just like a PayPal donate button. So whatever you want to do, man, I really appreciate it. But no worries if it's too difficult that you can't find the buttons. But there's a dollar sign on here, and yeah, a PayPal donate button on my website. And yeah, anything else, I appreciate it, man. That's very kind. Ali Star, to answer earlier, new Rossum special edition of 50 black and red. Wow. Yeah, I bet that set him back a few grand. Oh, EA ski. Okay. Excuse me, guys. I'm feeling a bit stuffy. I will do thanks and lol on the humour. Sorry, man. I don't know what you're referring to there. I'm getting a bit lost in it. Tune, is that Sugar? Yeah, Sugar Bear. Yeah, it's a tune. Any thoughts on Yamaha SU700? Yep, I think I've had 4 of those, not at the same time. But I got my first one. I lived in Liverpool way back in the day. I got one up there in sort of 2007, 2008, I think. And again, it's one of these machines, just like it's the same thing I have with Roland, more so with Roland, but with Yamaha as well, is that they do some amazing things. but there's always a little blocker there for me personally where I just think it's like it's killed it for me. So the SU700, it sounded brilliant. I loved the way it looked. It like this old school kind of like cash register calculator. I loved the screen. It kind of reminded me of those old Tomitronic games, the 3D ones that you could put up against your eyes. There's something like, I just loved the way it looked, the display on it. Beautiful looking machine. Yeah, it's good. It's good if you can put up with the limitations and you want an old school machine that's got those limitations. It's one of the best. It really is great. It's like weighs a ton. It's very well made. You've just got to be careful of the encoders. You probably know, but the encoders crap out. And I think you can buy new ones, but obviously you've got to take that to someone unless you can do it yourself. And you definitely really ideally need SCSI with it because the floppy disk is it's pointless. You get one of these Zulu SCSIs now these days. You can get SD card things, compact flash for it, I think. Yeah, good. It's a really good machine, the SU700. And it's got the different sample rates, I think. I think you can degrade samples or sample at 22 kilohertz on it, maybe. But it's good fun. It's a good fun machine. You just have to work with the limitations. It's like the one note samba epic simplicity. Just randomly run my MPC through a Boss RE2. Oh, you're lucky to have one of those. Amazing. I almost got the Space Echo in 1997. There was one. I don't know if you guys know if you're not from London or the UK, you might not know, but there's it's called Tin Pan Alley or Denmark Street. I think it's Denmark Street in Soho in London, just off Charing Cross Road, and it's where all the guitar shops are. And there was a shop there. It's not there anymore. It's changed hands. It's a different shop now, but they had a Space Echo in there for, I think it was 250 quid. And I didn't buy it. How idiotic is that? They go for like $3,500 now on eBay or more. I've seen them, just crazy. But maybe you're talking about the little one. But this was like the proper one. Daps G. Respect to you for sharing your knowledge and your commitment. Oh yeah, you're welcome, Daps G. Yeah, so just a recap. If you didn't see the start of this was a completely impromptu live stream. The main reason being is because I've not interacted with you guys or this channel, shockingly, for months. I've done a few little bits here and there, but I haven't done any proper tutorials for a long time. I've not done any reviews, and I've had so much different gear in and out of the studio. Like I said earlier, if you've just joined, you probably missed me talking about different machines that I've owned. I don't just buy stuff and spend more than I can afford. I'm always buying and selling stuff. So as an example, I've got the machine again now, and that's after selling the TR8S or exchanging it because it just wasn't doing it for me. Before that, I had the Syntact. Before that, I had the Digitact. I've gone through so many different pieces of gear that I could have done tutorials on, but I just couldn't get into it. You know, what with having kids and doing other things, like other work things and other commitments. I come into the studio and it's just like, I just can't sit here and do a proper tutorial in the most professional way and get the camera looking right, you know. And I just thought I'd do a live stream. And this is the best way you can get a lot more. I think you just can get a lot more information across doing it, even though I might be rambling or might, you know, get the question wrong. But at least we're here and we're doing it. So that's why I'm doing it. So yeah, thanks Daps G. That's why I'm here, just in case you missed that. S3200, is it the rack version of the 3K? Apparently, I don't know. I mean, I've never used the 3K, but all I can say about it is this one has got this one's got 32 megabytes of RAM. It's got a Zulu SCSI in it, which is a bit of a bitch to configure, but once I've worked out, I did it. So I did all the work on it myself. I've fitted a new screen in it. It's a really good thing to do, guys. If you haven't done it, guys, is try and repair something simple on one of your machines. Something that you know you can, you know, get out of if you go a bit too far and you're a bit, you know, you haven't got the confidence. I used to be terrible. I used to be like that person that would take things to a mechanic, but it was always in the back of my head. I'm like, come on, man, it's just confidence. It's like just maturity. You've just got to take that risk and try something, and then you get the confidence to try the next thing. And you know, I've got a motorcycle, so I've done my own motorcycle mechanics on that now, and it just makes you feel so much more worthy of owning something like that. So, you know, recently I've done all the repairs on my ASRX. I've opened it all up, put all the SCSI in that. That's got a Zulu SCSI in it as well. And it, you know, on paper it might seem like these are quite simple things, but it's like a rabbit hole. You go in there and you've got, well, I've changed this cable, now I've got to get that thing, and now I've got this, now I've got to configure something on the computer, now it's not matching up. So yeah, I had basically I'm trying to say is I've had the S950 a couple of years ago, and I did the same thing with that. I did all the work on it, the screen, the upgrade with the memory and the Zulu thing, and or whatever I had in there. I can't remember. Yeah, that was an ST, SCSI to ST. And this sounds better. I prefer this. Some people will say you can't say that about the S950. It sounds amazing. It's great if you overdrive the record input, or you know, you can really saturate stuff in it, but it's just so limited. And the fact that it just had that one, I think it had a filter, I can't remember. I think it's just got one low pass filter on it. Maybe it doesn't have a filter, I can't even remember now. But I only got it for the time stretch, for the old school time stretch. This does so much more. The S3200 is excellent. So I believe it has the same sound engine, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, I've not used it for ages, but I can't get rid of it because it's just, you know, is what it is. It's you might not be able to see the screen from that camera, but I could probably turn, what's that facing at? Let's flip this round. Can you see that? Yeah, she's a beauty. I can't actually adjust the yeah, you can't really see the screen on it, but it's a super bright aftermarket screen that I got on eBay, and it's brilliant. Put that back there. I'll play some tunes for you in a minute, guys. Just some ideas that I've been doing on the machine, and I could probably do you a little demo. Hopefully the mixing side of it will go well, because I've not actually played any music on it. I just want to get through some of these last... yeah, I'll answer some of the... I'll get to these comments now, and then I'll play some stuff that I've been doing on machine. And this is kind of a little bit of a sneak preview of my next live set. Hopefully that I'm doing in November. So yeah, Ali Star, I don't know. I think it's got the same engine as the 3K, MPC 3K. Don't forget Force has disk streaming. Yeah, the Force disk streaming, if anyone's interested, is brilliant now. It works absolutely flawlessly. Particularly if you've already, you know, like Ableton, if you use Ableton, you get these ALS files. I think there's something going on in the background with the Force, because if you, unless they've sorted this out, but what it was before is you'd load in a big piece of audio and it would stream, or you wouldn't load it in, it would just literally stream. But then it would take ages to load it in initially. But once you've done it once, it kind of remembers it, and that's what Ableton does. So it remembers, it's got this ALS file. It's an analysis file, basically. And I think there must be something in the Force that's doing that, unless they've just sorted it out, because it just is flawless now. You can literally load in like a big chunk of audio and it just streams, and it's there immediately. But that might, like I say, it might be because I've loaded the files that I'm loaded in. I've loaded them in quite a lot for my live sets. So I assume you're talking about DJing on the MPC Inky. Yeah, 2 MPCs. Yeah, I mean, I did have at one point my old MPC one, the white and black one, and I had the MPC Plus. And the idea was to get this zone and have 2 MPCs in this, but then I realised I don't want to have 3 pieces of gear when I play out. I just want to take one piece and this, and that's all I need, because, like I said, you got your project, you can loop it in there, load up your next project, and no one would ever know. You know, you're not stopping and starting anything, and you know. Novation XL call for MPC. Yeah, I've used the Novation XL. They're decent for that. Some guy I've seen uses two Akai Force and a mixer. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you can afford to have two MPCs or two Forces or two machines, yeah, it's worked brilliantly if you've got it all in sync. The only problem that comes with it is managing everything. You've got to remember where everything is, but obviously, you know, just takes a little bit of practice and memory. I'm looking to buy a mixer for around 400 or less. Do you have any opinions on what is good analog mixer? Yeah, I mean, I've got a Fustex 350 on this. I'll show it to you. So these come up occasionally, and this is superb. This mixer, it's yeah, you can drive all the gain on it. It's got 3-band parametric EQ across all 8 channels. It's got loads of inputs and outputs on the back. So that I only paid, I think I paid something like 350, 450 maybe for that. And they come up every so often. I think there's one on eBay at the moment, maybe another one that's broken or spares or repairs, but they're decent. That Studio Master I got just happened to be boxed in almost immaculate condition, and it came out in something like 1982. So I got lucky with that. But yeah, I just go on eBay and look for analog mixer. There's no particular one that I could recommend. Only the ones I've obviously got myself. But yeah, some of the old Fostex, Studio Master, some of the old Tascam ones. Some people use the multi-track recorders as well that have got built-in mixers. Even like 90s Yamaha ones, some of those have got some. You just got to be careful because quite often they've like quite a high noise, like, you know, a hiss and stuff on them, and you know, sometimes that can be good, other times it can just be completely detrimental and annoying. But yeah, sorry, I can't really give you too many recommendations on that, but just look on eBay. I mean, there's plenty of what's the other? Yeah, there's like these little 6-channel. You know So what I do, like, because the Fostex is 8-channel. I'm not using it at the moment just because I prefer the sound of this Studio Master. The Studio Master has only got 6 channels, but it's fine, especially for something like the MPC Live. It would be perfect because you've got the six outputs. If you do the multi-channel thing with an audio interface, then obviously you've just got these 6 channels, but then it's quite good because that forces you to commit. Once again, that limitation forces you to commit to some kind of workflow. So I have my drums on a mono channel. I don't need them in stereo. So that's one channel. On the second channel, I have my bass. Again, that's mono. So I'm using just 2 for the drums and the bass. And then usually I'll have channels 3 and 4 will be my sound effects and things like pads, drones, vocals, because I want those in stereo. Or vocals might be on channel 3, but I generally don't have vocals just on a separate thing. That would just be part of the sound effects stuff. And then 5 and 6 would be the returns, so I can have them separately on a stereo pair as well. So 6 channels is fine. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of Tascam, old school vintage Tascam 6-channel mixers. I forget what they're called now, but they're pretty good, and they come up in that sort of £300 price range. Excuse me. So that's Hold My Beer. Used or new doesn't matter. Mark Summers. The old Studio Master desk based on 741 op amps are amazing for splicing. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, this one is great. Oh, right, okay. Valley of the Shadows, yeah. Yeah, I mean, running breaks through that one is great. And I've also recently, again on my Instagram, I don't know if you saw, there was a video where I was overloading. So I was plugging patch cables into all the wrong inputs and outputs. Sorry, guys, I've got some Gas repeating on me. A bit too much information. You didn't need to know that, but that's what's going on with me. It's because I'm talking too much. Yeah, and I turned it into a synthesizer. I was sort of like overloading it and getting all these really weird squeals and stuff. So it's good for that as well. That's a good thing that you can do with an old analog mixer, is just overload the gain and get all these weird. You got to be really careful though. You don't blow up your speakers. Andrew Russell, I see it. Undaunted Death, no effing way, Inky. I assume you guys know each other. $sign is there. Inky the Cat is awesome. SH4D. By the way, hi from Brighton. Yeah, easy. When was the last time I was in Brighton? Brighton. I went to Worthing to DJ. That was about 2 years ago. That's the nearest I've been to Brighton in recent years. I think before that I did a little live set. Took my daughter and the missus down and did a live set again with my good friend Simon. We played a little live set on the... There was some... I think it was a music expo down there. I met Andrew Huang, which was kind of weird. There's all these like YouTubers there, and I played this little electronic set on my old MPCX that got stolen. And then did this lecture in front of this crowd that were just like a bit beard stroking. There was one guy in the audience, and he was really sort of like looking at me as if to say, "You're just another one of those hip hop beat making people." And I was like, "No, that's not what this is about." But yeah, it was quite good fun. That was the last time I was in Brighton, by the way. Just a little Brighton story for you there. Nothing interesting. Sorry, my boss RE2 is the new. Yeah. At least you didn't have the chance to buy the proper one for 300 quid and then not buy it, because that you'd regret that, which I do. So that was a bad move on my part. Yeah, are they good? Are they good? The Boss RE2. I have thought about getting one at some point. Fostex 350 on Reverb right now for 250. If it's in fully working order, that's a great deal. Oh, it's sold. There's another Fostex for 350. Inky the Cat. All right, so that's it, guys. So I hope I've answered all your questions. I'm gonna play some music because I've got a few things to do before I go to bed. So I'm gonna just play some of these latest projects that I've been doing on Machine. And so yeah, I'll just explain the workflow again. So it's literally just stereo out into one input on, well, inputs 1 and 2 on the back of the zone, and then the matrix on this thing is what makes it brilliant, because I can assign each of these 4 channels to accept that one input from the machine. So Machine will appear on all 4 channels. I just capture, my groove once I've tweaked it a bit and just let it roll out for a bit, just as you would in the DJ set. And then once I'm happy with that, I can capture it on the looper and then load up my next project and just mix it in. So yeah, I'll let you hear some of these little ideas, and then I'll call it a night, guys. But so yeah, I'll say goodbye before I sign out, but I'll just play these before that. And yeah, I'm going to mute my mic as well, guys, because otherwise I'll get a load of feedback. yeah, just a little demo of, yeah, that's how I do my live set, man. So just quite simple ideas. I do a lot more than that, but just because we're on here, you know, just messing with effects, you know, bringing little samples in, sound effects, mashing up the breaks a bit, and capturing it, and then moving on to the next project. So yeah, and yeah, like I said, I've said a couple of times in the live stream, this was kind of a test. It's something that I wanted to do for the channel and for you guys, because I've not done anything on here for ages, and I just want to get more comfortable in sort of performing live on the channel as well, and testing out ideas. Good for you, good feedback, and it's good to have, like, you know, some immediate questions and answers. So yeah, thanks for joining in, guys. Appreciate your inputs, and hopefully, yeah, I'll be doing more of these more regularly, and I'm going to start doing more themed ones, so it's a bit more focused. So I'll either promote that via Instagram or Facebook, and let you guys know what's coming up, and then we can all be prepared, so you can have some questions ready. You know, it might be on a specific piece of hardware, or just some issues you're having with something, you know, whatever it is. But yeah, thanks for joining in, guys. There's a fly. I'm not saying, hey, bye, yeah, bye now, goodbye. There's literally some like mosquito in my studio. So yeah, big up, guys, and I shall return very soon. As ever, Zoom lessons, if anyone needs one, or two or three or four, I can mix your beats. Anything else you want to get in touch with, tubedigga@gmail.com. All my links are in the description of the video. Masterclass, all good. Force Masterclass. There's even a Machine Plus Masterclass. But yeah, other than that, I'll catch you on Instagram. Try and do that every day. And yeah, I'm out, guys. Have a nice evening, or wherever you are in the world. If it's not evening, have a nice morning, have a nice day, have a nice life. And I'll see you guys soon. All right, big up. Peace.